I spent about half of the 2020s hosting a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing movies that came out on time in my universe but got delayed in that other universe. And as such, the movies as they were in my universe came out differently. Some listeners not of this universe even think that this is an improvised comedy podcast. And hey, let them think what they want. It's entertaining either way, right? I'm Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay Season 6. Hashtag 6 seasons about movies. New episode every other Saturday. Unless I say otherwise. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, Steven Shinder, and joining me once again, he's been on the show a couple times before in the past, it is Mondo. How's it going, bro?
Man, things are going good, man. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this, and I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thanks for taking it up. So, this movie, Sinners, for us here in the Delayed Replay universe, it came out like a week into March, but in that other universe, I guess it's coming out like mid-April, so like just so people know, like the version we saw in our universe is probably pretty different from how it is in that version that's going to come out in the other universe. But yeah, so something I want to talk about first is, you know, this is a point that I've seen brought up, is how like this movie, you know, it's written and directed by Ryan Coogler, but I've seen a post where someone was sort of critiquing the marketing and being like, I don't know what this is about or when it's coming out, like, you know, in the lead up to it. So, like, what are your thoughts on how they were marketing this movie?
I agree. There wasn't much, like, you watch the trailers, and it looks like there's just so much to be desired. Like, you're not really sure what to expect. You know, yes, it's set during the Jim Crow era, right? So you get this idea that, is it about, you know, is it about that? Is it about, the Klan and those battles? But then it also has these sort of visuals of what could be a horror film, right? Like, there's potential monsters, or there's potential something, and there's language that insinuates that there might be some really evil power. But what are they talking about? And it really is confusing to go into a movie, especially one of this caliber, with having zero idea of what you're going into.
Yeah, because in the trailer they do mention stuff like demons and ghosts, but you're like sitting there like sort of scratching your head and be like, well, do they mean that literally or metaphorically? But something that this type of marketing kind of reminded me of is, you know, when the movie Nope was being marketed, they didn't really give away what the threat was in that movie in the trailers, did they? Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
Right.
They did not. And you're right, it does. And even when you look online and you look at the synopsis of the movie, it's extremely vague.
Yeah. Like, pretty much going in, like, all we knew was, okay, it's the 30s. These twins are coming back to their hometown. Their names are Smoke and Stack, and they're played by Michael B. Jordan and his twin brother, Michael A. Jordan. I guess he's breaking into acting now. But yeah, what'd you think of the twins and how they played off of each other, just in general?
Well, my first thought was great. There's a third Michael Jordan. Okay.
Yeah.
If it wasn't already confusing enough, now you have Michael G. Jordan, Michael Goat Jordan. Then you've got Michael B. Jordan, and then you got Michael A. Jordan. Um, I mean, when is it gonna stop? Okay. Uh, I thought they played off of each other very well. It is interesting how well the two of them look alike, but sound so incredibly different.
Yeah, like Michael A. Jordan's voice is a bit more high pitched than Michael B. Jordan's voice. So I guess I don't know if that's how he actually sounds or if they did that to help us tell them apart. Yeah, it was an interesting dynamic, these two brothers. Um, they're brothers in real life, so I guess it was somewhat convincing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I thought they did a good job playing off each other, especially being Michael A. Jordan's breakout role into acting. This was a big movie to kind of take that leap into. And I know you can say and you can make the claim, well, his brother's an actor, right? So I'm sure there's something there. But that doesn't always hold true.
I think skills, if they don't just come from family, they can come out from the actual practice of trying the role. And I get the sense that when he was trying to break into this role, he really was trying to immerse himself. There's all these interviews, these behind the scenes things where he says he did a lot of research, and it's like, okay, he's like really dedicated to trying to get things right. And meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan has already been in a bunch of stuff, Creed, Black Panther. So he was kind of like, yeah, I just, was just chilling and just went ahead and did my role. So it was all good. So different approaches, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. The way, like I said, it was kind of cool to see that, and and especially since they're brothers in the movie, I think they were able to use that to sort of enhance the overall feeling of that and the overall believability.
Their names, Smoke and Stack, which I think might be their nicknames, and they explain that the way that they got those nicknames is because Smoke is really good at cooking, whereas Stack is really good at stacking things. What was it that they said he was really good at stacking?
Was really good at stack. He worked out on the docks, and he was really good at stacking crates and stacking those inbound, I don't boxes, I guess, because this was back at the time where manual labor was very important, and I mean that's pretty much how most people made their money, right? So, and because of that, he was built. He had a lot of muscle, so he was stacked. That's kind of how I took it too. Like, had that physical, ability.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, yeah, they do mention how he seems stacked, like pretty much ripped. Um, there were like a couple shots pretty much showcasing like how strong he's become. So, yeah, just putting that into the role, I guess. What do you think of some of the stuff that Smoke was cooking in this movie?
I thought it was interesting. There was the scene where he was making it. It was some type of meat. I don't know exactly what kind of animal it came off of, but it almost kind of looked like a pork steak. But it was a little bit smaller, and man, it looked really good. And then he kind of had like these almost like vegetables, but they looked different. Like they didn't look like your traditional carrots and potatoes or whatever kind of next to them. They looked a little like the color was different, almost like they were homegrown, right? Because this was set in the 30s, right? So you probably didn't have a lot of people going down to the grocery store and just buying stuff. Um, and I just assumed that meat was some sort of maybe something wild caught, maybe I don't know, like raccoon or fox or something. But overall, man, it looked good.
Like he would use these ingredients like lima beans, and I think at some point even use dragon fruit, and it's like, huh, that's you don't see that all that much in movies, you know?
No, you don't.
Yeah, so it definitely added some variety there. And I do really like the attention to detail and like the era, the types of taxis that you would see. Like, I'm so used to seeing the taxis from today, but the ones here, it's like, whoa, that they really 1930s-ified these taxi cars.
Yeah, like the way that they would have like taxis just written or almost painted on the doors. Like they weren't like nice vinylly wrapped cars. They didn't have like the nice toppers, like you might see today with all the advertisements. Um, they would just say taxi on the side of it. In like white paint or yellow paint or just, I guess, whatever color the taxi driver could get a hold of.
I like how this movie kind of starts off innocently as kind of, in a way, a historical fiction version of a house party type of movie. When we think of house party movies, I think, well, for me anyway, the first things that come to mind are like Weekend at Bernie's, Project X, Booksmart, Superbad, or, random teen movies. But this was kind of like, Smoke and Stack wanted to have a party at this. I'm not even sure if you would even call it a barn. Like it has that type of vibe, but it's not that same color and shape. Like it's a wooden building and it's bigger than a barn, maybe. They want to keep it classy, but also let people indulge and have fun. And so they're inviting these people that they're pretty sure they can trust and, giving them this password, which is my dog gave birth to a rabbit on the 4th of July. So that's how they know, like when each person knocks and they say that's how they know to let them in.
Yeah, and I don't know how those people said that line without dying. I heard that, and I thought that was probably one of the funniest things I had heard in a long time.
There were definitely people laughing here and there in my theater when that first popped up. They're having this party, there's some hookups, there's some dancing, and like lots of great food and stuff. But then, eventually we get to the point where these people come to the door and, they're, very menacing looking and, they weren't invited. And they seem very disapproving of this whole occasion, don't they?
They do. They, man, they all had scowls on their faces. They all had, you know, just the way that they walked and they carried themselves just looked very unhappy.
Their facial expressions and just looked very unnatural, and they don't like how the people at the party are like indulging. And I think this movie really tries to make you think, like, who does a title refer to? Does it refer to, people just at the party doing whatever they want, how people on the outside perceive them? Or does it refer to the people on the outside being like actual sinners, eventually wanting to like kill people out of just being like really judgmental and that sort of thing? Like, what do you think of how they straddle that line with the title?
I think they straddle it very well. And I think it kind of adds to what we talked about with the ambiguity. I can't believe I said that word right. Um, of the marketing. and I think it aligns with the marketing throughout the movie. Um, my cats are deciding they want to have a boxing match while I'm trying to talk. Um, so they straddle that line very well. They, like I said, it fits the way that the movie was marketed with the synopsis of the movie. I think they really want people to be engaged with the entire film. Like they want people to be guessing until the actual reveal of what they mean is.
Yeah, like they really keep you guessing, and I like the dialogue, the back and forth between the people on the inside and the people on the outside. It really feels well written, and like it keeps the tension up, and I really do feel the sense of menace where it's like, okay, I get the sense that the people on the outside are gonna try to do something. And I was really shocked when Haley Steinfeld's character Mary, she seemed like she was trustworthy, attending the party, but then eventually they reveal that she is allied with the people on the outside. And that was like top 10 anime betrayals there.
Yeah, it really did. And, and I guess for me too, right? Because I'm a big, you know, Steinfeld fan. And you want to believe that, she's a good guy, right? Or a good character. And so I guess it really hit when it was revealed she was not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we're so used to seeing her in heroic roles, like in Bumblebee, the Hawkeye TV show, True Grit, even. Um, it's funny enough, there's even a Western episode of Marvel's What If where she got to like be in that Western setting again. But yeah, like I was really taken off guard. Like, I had my cup of soda in my hand and I was just so shocked that I like spilled some of it over, and I felt really bad because like the staff would have to clean that up later.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad feeling when you accidentally spill something in a movie theater because you know that someone else has to clean that up, especially when it's liquid.
Yeah.
If it's popcorn and you get it on the seat next to you, before you head out, you can kind of scoop that back into your empty popcorn bag or whatever and toss it away and kind of help them out a bit, kind of feel bad. Um, but if
Yeah.
it's liquid and it's a little different.
Yeah, like it's not as easy as popcorn where if you get a little bit of butter on your hands, you could just wipe it on the seat and just, yeah. I don't know if that's best protocol, but I think that's a
Yeah.
common practice.
Hey, you know what? Let us look. We live in a world where I think popcorn on a movie theater seat's probably the best thing that can be on the movie theater seat. Okay.
Did you get the like the Sinners themed popcorn bucket when you went to see this?
I did. I did. I got the one. So at my theater, I went to an AMC. I don't know what kind of theater you went to. But
Yeah, I went to Look Cinema where you like
okay,
order the food from your seat and they like get in front of people and like to give you the food. So yeah.
okay, okay. So yeah, the bucket that I got, it's just like the standard tin, and it has kind of like the movie poster where you see, Michael B. Jordan in front of like it looks like a sun, like the sun or like the rising sun or like a fireball or something. Um, so it has that, but then like around it, it has like flame. Um, and it has like these weird claw marks in certain places too. Like it's kind of weird. It's kind of cool. Um, I got it. I like to collect those, so I figured that would be a cool one to have.
Yeah, that's interesting. The ones at the theater I went to, looked pretty much basically how you described them, but with Michael A. Jordan instead of Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So not as much variety, but I guess people could still collect, gotta collect them all, that whole
What?
Pokemon mindset.
Yeah, but you know what though? I think that but exclusivity, the word exclusive to, um, is a big thing. And I think, even if it's just slightly different than, another theater, they still get to say exclusively at Look Theater or Look Cinema, exclusively on, or exclusively at AMC or exclusively at Cinemark. And it could be pretty much the same dang thing, but have the slightest difference.
Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe this is what's saving movie theaters.
Maybe. Maybe. Speaking of that, look, I love the movie theater. Okay, how full was your theater for this film?
So I would say my theater was maybe half full. But I went to see it like during the day on a weekday. Like it was like around noon on a weekday. So I don't know if that maybe had something to do with it. But what about yours?
Mine was actually pretty good. Um, it was about 3/4 full, and it was on a Saturday morning, but it was during like the first showing of the day. So it
Oh
was
wow.
like that 11 o'clock showing. So pre-noon on a Saturday, and it was 3/4 full. I also went and saw it in Dolby Cinema. That's where I see all my movies if I can, either Dolby or IMAX. And yeah, I was shocked. Like it was a really good turnout, and I feel quietly, I'm starting to see this resurgence of the movie theater.
Yeah, and I get the sense that with this movie in particular, there wasn't, there was a bit of buzz like opening week, but I feel like the word of mouth especially like helped it climb up a bit more. People were pretty much going up to each other being like, "Oh, you got to see what happens. It's like super crazy." And it really is cuz when things escalate, there's a fire that happens in the movie, and you think that it's, by some like earthly cause, but it turns out that these people on the outside who are like walking around like zombies, they are like possessed by demons and ghosts. And we even get glimpses of those demons and ghosts from time to time. What'd you think of how they looked when they were eventually revealed?
Oh man, horrifying. Um, honestly, you know how when you see, um, sometimes you see it with Halloween costumes or Halloween masks or something, and like their cheek will be missing, and you'll see their teeth like from inside their you see like their teeth. You know what I'm saying? Like the cheek
Yeah.
is gone, but you still see their teeth. Um, and like you would see that, and you would see glowing eyes. Um, long sharp fingernails. Um, man, it was wild. Very menacing, very creepy, and it looked like it was all practical. Like it all looked like it was practical effect. None of that CGI stuff. None of that. We're gonna superimpose these features onto somebody. It looked like it was prosthetically done, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think it helps that, they don't put in like a million people, so there's no need for CGI. Like they put a reasonable number where it's not too many people, but still a bunch. It's like enough to feel claustrophobic, like if they're surrounding the building and trying to get in. Like I really felt like Night of the Living Dead vibes watching this movie, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I can see that. I can definitely see that, especially with the atmosphere, right? Because it's in the 30s. There's, the 30s. It wasn't like it was today. Things were more almost primitively made. Houses were more wooden. Buildings were more wooden. You mentioned the bar, like the barn type building that the party was in earlier. Um, things were more, um, just rustic. And I think it really adds to the overall just creep factor of of the spectacle.
Yeah, I also felt that creep factor when, one of the possessed people outside tries breaking in through like one of the, basically trying to make a hole through one of the walls and trying to barge in. But they're able to like subdue that possessed person and tie him up, and they find this journal in his pocket, and it was quite shocking, like what we learned in the journal. Like, what'd you think of that whole moment there?
I thought it was really awesome because you learn kind of the origins of these possessed people and how they knew that they were turning as they were writing this journal. And they started mentioning their cravings for it's like other human flesh and not even just human flesh, it's like flesh in general, right? Um, and it almost sounded zombie-esque, but in this weird way, it also felt sort of vampire-like because they talked about not being able to, take the sunlight, having to recluse at, during the day and having to mainly hunt, um, at, during, during the night. Um, and that they had enough of their thought process up to a certain point that they were able to formulate that. And also thought was cool was the camera shot where it showed the actual handwriting in the journal, and
Yeah.
every page that they turned, it got less and less legible.
Yeah, like as they kept flipping through, it looked more like scratches and claw marks.
Yeah, and the letters and words just didn't look, um, like not just because of that, but also because of the fact that this possession was taking over them, and they were losing that ability to, you know, write essentially.
Yeah, and like over the course of the movie, we get these bits of info, and like if you piece it together, it really feels like the demons or ghosts or whatever, they are able to possess people who feel very envious of other people who let themselves have more fun. And in a way, like if you just simplify it, it's almost like, if you think of like, I don't know, if you think of high school, it's like you have the cool kids having their party, doing whatever they want, breaking some rules and stuff. And then you have the other kids on the outside who are the do-gooders and they weren't invited and they want the cool people having fun to suffer. But I mean, that's how they get them. That's how the ghosts and demons get those people who think that they are in the right, and they're more susceptible to being corrupted and led in this zombie like fashion.
Yeah, yeah, it was so cool. absolutely very riveting story. Um, I I went into this film with pretty low expectations. I'll be honest. I mean, Michael B. Jordan is awesome. I love Michael B. Jordan. Didn't know what to think of Michael A. Jordan. Um, the supporting cast to me was also, you know, I, I was very unfamiliar with a lot that they had been in before, truthfully, except for Steinfeld. Um, but man, this movie blew my mind in ways that I didn't know my mind could be blown.
Yeah, I especially like the POV shots where you see from the point of view of one of the possessed people, and you see that their vision, like how they look at things, it's like colored in shades of like red and orange and whatnot as they try to attack these people.
Yeah, and there was another movie that did something like that that I thought was really cool. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but um, another film did that, and I thought it was just as cool then as it was this time around. Um, because I mean, different creature that was supposed to be like a werewolf or something, but yeah, just so cool. Like the imagination it takes to do that.
Right. Oh, were you thinking of the Wolfman reboot
Yes,
remake thing?
yeah, that one, that
Okay.
one.
Yeah,
Oh,
I totally see that comparison. Yeah.
yeah, I was so sad with that movie. I know we're not talking about that movie, but I was so sad with that movie.
Right.
Mainly because it was a Blumhouse film, and I have come to love and respect so much of what they do. And that one just, oh boy.
Right. Well, would you say that you enjoyed this Sinners more than that one?
Oh, immensely. And I think there was a part of me, and this is going to sound silly. I think, to be honest with you, I think that film is why I went into this film a little apprehensively. Um, because, like I said, I had very high hopes for that, right? And, this one was a lot better. So, yay.
Yeah, and they really make the audience wait patiently before getting into the more action heavy elements of it all. Like there are moments here and there where they're fighting back using, you know, little things like utensils, forks and whatnot. But as we like get to like the third act or whatever, um, Smoke and Stack bust out their collection of guns, these shotguns, rifles, and one of them even like has a sword, and it's like, whoa, where'd you get this sword?
Yeah. Oh man, that sword was so cool. It didn't look like a samurai sword. Honestly, it looked kind of like, almost like you would imagine in like a medieval sword. Kind of like something out of like, like an Assassin's Creed kind of game, or even, almost like something you might see on like Indiana Jones or something. It looked really cool.
It's another ambiguous element where their Smoke and Stack are asked, where'd you get that sword? And Stack is like, well, what, you don't think I could have made this on my own? And we've established how handy he is with all the work that he does. So I could imagine him working with tools and maybe blades like this, but it also looks kind of nicer than you would expect. So it is a little mystery that they leave dangling there, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've talked about with this whole movie is they did such a good job of really um, capturing that sort of suspension of disbelief, right? Or maybe I said that wrong, but that sort of to where you can come out of the movie with little plot pieces, little back plot pieces that I come out with. Does that make sense? Like you can interpret this movie a little different than I can, and I thought that's kind of a cool device.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So, yeah, after arguing back and forth about whether to wait it out inside until the morning sun rises, they decide to go ahead and go out and fight back. There's like fire going on, and they just end up starting to like shoot at these possessed people and also like slicing up some of them with a sword. So this was quite the climactic battle, and I really liked the camera work. How they very easily could have made it so that it's tough to see everything because it's early, like the early hours, still kind of dark out. But they understood the assignment. They knew that, and it helps that there's fire going on as well. But yeah, they knew that they needed to make this battle look clear so that it would feel more compelling and real to watch, I guess.
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely, and even the way, like I said, everything felt practical, right? Nothing felt CGI. Even the fire looked like it popped off the screen, like in scenes where there were fire during those fight scenes, right? You were like, oh man, they did a really good job with what they did, and I couldn't be more impressed with that.
Yeah, and there's a very emotional moment where Smoke and Stack, wielding a gun and a sword respectively, they come up to Haley Steinfeld's character Mary and have to decide like what to do about her. Like, what'd you think of how that moment played out?
I thought it was very emotional, because you could tell that they really needed that. They really wanted that to happen. Um, because kind of like I told you, I felt really sad earlier in the movie when it was revealed that she was working with, you know, outside forces. You know, and it at a point they believed it very well too, right? And there were some emotional bits in there. So to have that moment and almost from a redemption standpoint for that character, right? To have that, and I think anytime you have redemption in a movie, I think it can be emotional. Um, I don't know if that makes sense, but anytime you have those bits, it can be really um, uh, heart string pulling. I couldn't find the words. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they do make it ambiguous as well as like, is she possessed or was she only like helping the possessed people? There is a moment where you look in her eyes and you see the reflection of the fire in her eyes, and she says something like, "Help me," and yeah, I was kind of tearing up a little because it's like, oh my gosh, like what is going on with this woman, and are they able to help her or aren't they?
Yeah, are they about to help her or are they about to drive a sword through her face?
Right. Like it's actually sadder, like the scene itself, but hearing it described like that, it's like I can't help but laugh a little. Also, sorry, I don't know if you heard like my laptop fan like going off right there, but
I did. In fact, so I am sitting in the bedroom and we have, obviously the bathroom is off to it and we have like a mouthwash dispenser and it sounds a lot like that. And I thought my cat had jumped up there or maybe was triggering the thing and it was just constantly spitting out. Um, Uh, so, no, you're good, man. Noise happens. Especially with the way microphones today, you could pick up you know, a snowflake hitting the roof of a car.
Oh yeah, with like the car alarm and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was really on the edge of my seat when they were like trying to decide like how to try to save Mary, and they what they did was I'm trying to remember what it was that they did, like the sequence of events here.
So
Uh,
they, so remember that journal?
yeah.
So that journal indicated that whatever, and they never really explained what incorporated into these people to turn them, right? Again, ambiguous. They, but it, the, the writer of this journal insinuated that if the host, I guess, would consume a certain mixture of the, I forgot, it was turned into a liquid, but I can't remember exactly how they did it. They never really showed it. But if they consume that during this, like during daylight, it could actually start to kill whatever was inside of them and bring them back before they turned officially. But that was sort of the problem is once they turned like completely, kind of like the individual was who couldn't write anymore, it would they were too far gone, right? This was the only opportunity. So she had half of the ingredients, but she didn't know she couldn't combine them. She wasn't good at that. Smoke, remember we talked about earlier, was good at cooking and good at preparing things. So he was able to take it into the house, and they had these sort of montages of you know kettles going on open fire and things being heated in skillets. Look like different kind of roots and different kind of things. And then it was kind of put in this weird glass jar, kind of almost like a mason jar, but without a lid. And it was taken out to her, and shortly as the sun was coming up. But it was interesting because you could start to see that final transformation happen within her, right? As they're pouring this thing down her throat, essentially. And there was sort of this moment of, did she make it or didn't she? Either way, she was probably toast because she was out in the daylight anyway. Um, but it was just interesting. Like that was sort of how they pulled that off. Um, a little cliche, a weird device plot to a point, but also fun and also interesting that there was a way of sort of rectifying it.
Yeah. And I also like how there's a lot of intensity when, he's in the house and cooking the stuff while the house is on fire, and he's trying to avoid some of that. But yeah, his skills as a cook really became relevant. It wasn't just a quirky character trait. It really paid off in the end. When daylight comes and they've defeated like the possessed people, and Mary seems to be, like it seems like they're able to like help her somewhat, uh, and but they don't know like how, because they learned all this stuff basically within a night, so they don't know 100% how the after effects are gonna be. So they're like, we're gonna have to keep watch on her for a while. Um, and so, like, as a new dawn rises, they sort of walk off together past this road sign and are really concerned because they don't know how they're going to explain all these like dead bodies to the people of the town. So they're like, you know what, we might need to move to a new town. And it's kind of a lesson of how you can never really go home again. Like there's always going to be something that happens to the place you once called home, I guess.
Yeah, and that's actually a wonderful way of putting it. Is, there's always going to be something that happens to the place we call home, and sometimes if you're these individuals, you can never go back home, and man, that's sad. Like that is legitimately sad.
Yeah. Like the way that it ends, they're walking off, getting further away from the camera, going toward the horizon, and then the credits come up. Like it doesn't fade to black. It keeps, the credits go up against the shot of them like still walking away, and that adds a bit more sadness to it. Especially with the score that Ludwig Göransson provided. What'd you think of his music for this movie?
It was really awesome. It was the best way I can describe it was, how do I put this? Whimsical, but also daunting. It was upbeat, but it was also um, menacing, right? To a point. It kind of reminded me of something out of almost like a Victorian kind of film, you know? Kind of had some of those um, tones of, gothicness to it. Um, but also had, some upbeat kind of tune to it as well.
Right. Yeah, like it definitely felt like music of a different era, but used for this particular era of the movie. And I think it made a nice contrast, but also really fit with the horror vibe that they were going for in places.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I like the discussions that this movie has sparked, like there's stuff about like the historical context, perhaps the racial themes and maybe what do certain metaphors mean, and the I think this is a movie that will be talked about for a while, at least in yeah, I think there's going to be like a lot of discussions and whatnot still.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Because the movie overall did an amazing job of blending the blending the racial tones of the 30s along with horror, like a horror film. And man, that's a hard line to to straddle.
So what are your final thoughts, score out of 10, and do you know have measurement for that score for Sinners?
Yeah, so my final thoughts are this is definitely a movie that you want to see. Um, this is a movie that is worth the time, it is worth the effort, and it is honestly best watched in a dimly lit room. The thrills of the movie and the scares of the movie are definitely entertaining, and it's blended in with a a narrative that we know all too well in today's world as well. Um, I would I would probably say it's about a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. I think this is going to be a movie that ends up on. I'm going to say I think this is a movie that could end up on people's top 100 lists at some point. I really do.
Nice. And what's your unit of measurement for that
Oh,
score? Like
Uh, my unit of measurement is, let me see here. Let me think about that for a second. Give me 12 seconds to think about this. Because that's actually a good question here.
Yeah, it could be like an object related to the movie or something.
Yeah. Um, you know what? I'm gonna do journals.
Okay, so like 9 out of 10 journals.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 journals.
Nice. Yeah, that's very high praise there. As for me, I think when I initially walked out of the theater after the movie ended, I was feeling all sorts of emotions and sort of still taking it in and being like, what did I just watch? So I think initially I was at 7.5, but since that viewing, I've been reflecting on what does this movie actually mean and trying to decipher it and stuff. So I think I've climbed up to an 8, and 8 out of 10 um old 1930s taxis. But I would not be surprised if over time this grows even more on me. There's some movies where I watch them and I'm like, yeah, that was good, and then maybe a year later I'll watch them again and be like, oh my gosh, how did I not realize that it was even better than I thought it was before? So, yeah, I think it's definitely worth a watch and probably worth a rewatch at some point.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it. Thanks for being on this episode, Mondo. I don't know if you have anything to like plug or maybe like a show or movie to recommend or what, but up to
Um,
you.
don't have much to plug. I will say, I did just get done playing the game Split Fiction with my significant other. And I cannot recommend that game enough if you, it's a 2 player game, so you need a partner with it. But I cannot recommend that game enough. That dev team, those people make some of the best games I think I've ever played. So Split Fiction, um, go play it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I heard someone else I know talk about this game recently. Um, is it like a fantasy game? I'm like looking at the. Oh, is it like part fantasy, part sci-fi? I'm like just looking at the
Yes,
cover of it.
yeah. So the brief synopsis of it is you you're basically two writers who have never been published get a call and get this opportunity to get published, and they go to this company who basically puts them in this machine, in this weird way, and links them to the machine, and the machine is essentially stealing their ideas to kind of make like an AI type thing, right? It's going to steal all the ideas from all the actual writers, so that way it can boost its, AI output. Um, well, there's an issue where two people wind up in the same pod that get connected to this machine, and part of what the machine does is these people, while they're in there, they're basically living in the stories they've written. Um, and one of them is a fantasy writer, and one of them is a sci-fi writer, and both of them they don't get along very well to start the game. And because one's going, like, you're going through one of their stories, and then you switch to one of the other one's stories, and then somehow they kind of blend together, and one of it's really interesting. And that's how it got the title Split Fiction.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up some gameplay of this game. I almost said movie, and I was like, wait, what am I saying? But
Uh,
yeah,
there,
because it gets me curious, like how it all looks, like the switching back and forth.
yeah. So there's also some side mission, like some little side stories that you can do. And one of them, you're a pig. So one of you will be a pig, and one of them, they're pigs with magic abilities. One of them can like jump really high or fly or something, and the other one farts like magic dust, and boosts them in the air. Um, and it's pretty hilarious. And then after that, like the story gets kind of dark, and they get turned into hot dogs, and then you have to control a little hot dog being rolled off the grill
Oh
and into the
wow.
hot dog bun. And it was supposed to be inspired by like an 8-year old story or something, like written by an 8-year old. Um,
I mean,
so
it sounded like it was getting into sausage party territory, but hopefully not too much like that.
no, no, definitely not. Definitely peachy.
Okay, okay, good. All right, so yeah, people should check out that game. And yeah, so I'll include my stuff after this when I edit this. So without further delay, have a good day. Um, oh, also forgot to mention this is it's kind of funny that Sinners is a topic of this episode because it's season 6, episode 6, and just those numbers, but also like independent of that, I was gonna be reading some Hellblazer, Hellboy, and Daredevil after this.
That's pretty cool. Pretty ironic. Pretty. I love sometimes when things just connect together like that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so thanks for tuning in, and without further delay, have a good day. All right, now for the plugs. You could pretty much just check out the socials in the show notes, anything that I currently use, but also check out stevenshinder.com for info on my standalones and stepping stones novels. And you can email this podcast via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on who does Sinners referred to. Also, happy Easter, I guess. Maybe that's why this is being released that this weekend in that other universe because of Easter. But yeah, and you can also check me out on Yes Shift, a podcast/vlog that I do with my dad. We've done interviews and scheduled interviews. We did one with Matt Beck, who's been playing with John Anderson and the Band Geeks, who play Yes music, as well as new music from their album True. And we're having Chris Clark, the keyboardist, on the show in the near future. And also check out Drum Talk TV and all the fan Q&A stuff going on there in the Drum Talk TV Brilliance membership site, as well as any game shows that we may be hosting. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. All right, so this podcast will be back in 2 weeks, but before we end this, of course, my other self from that other universe, same name, no different middle initial, but yeah, my other self, he'll be talking a little bit about what he's been watching. So without further delay, here's my other self. Hey everyone, so speaking of Sinners, I've got him back into Dexter Original Sin. I watched the first episode when it premiered, and then I watched the second one a couple months or so later, and now a month or two or something later again. I don't know, trying to finally give it another chance, and it does feel like it's gotten a bit better than in the first couple episodes. It very well could just be my mood is maybe better this time around while watching, but yeah, it feels less like I'm watching a fan film now, and I guess I'm viewing it more as, its it, its own era in the Dexter universe. So I don't know, but it is getting interesting. I'll, probably finish it this weekend, and I don't know, maybe I'll touch on it next time around. Not much to report on the movie watching front. I did see the documentary Not Just a Goof, which came out on Disney Plus recently and was about the making of a Goofy movie. I thought it was really well done, and it even mentioned the episode of Atlanta where it was that universe's version of a Goofy movie documentary. And yeah, that movie, a Goofy movie, has really it really grew on people over the years, and I even like the sequel, an extremely Goofy movie. Um, but yeah, and in terms of movies, you could check my letterboxd, but I did see Mufasa, The Lion King, finally, and it's just a meh for me. I know it's a new story, but it felt like they were cramming in a lot of origin type stuff for multiple characters, and the the effects just feel really lifeless to me. It yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would have liked it more if it was in 2D animation and had more vibrant colors, but yeah, what are you going to do? And so yeah, that's it for me. I actually talked about the Lion King movies and even the Lion Guard show with people at an improv show recently. After their show, we talked a bit about a few things, and yeah, it was fun talking with people about the Lion King franchise. In terms of shows, I think I talked about here how I watched the first season of Russian Doll, and it was really good. If you didn't like The Acolyte, or if you're like me and thought it was just okay, definitely give Russian Doll a shot and see what Leslie Headland was able to do with that. I still need to see the second season, which is on Netflix. It's been there for a while. I tried watching Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft, the animated series that's also on Netflix. First two episodes, I think I watched the first two, and then I don't know, I just wasn't feeling that into it. So I don't know if anyone has seen it and thinks it's really good. Like, should I power through or shouldn't I? Let me know, I guess. And I know The Last of Us has come back, but I'm way behind. I haven't gotten past the second episode yet, and I did check out finally the first episode of A Girl's Guide to Murder, and it seems interesting, but I honestly forgot about it like a week or two now later after watching the first episode. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll check that out again. Also, been diving back into Running Point on Netflix, the Kate Hudson TV show. It's like has to do with sports and business and stuff. Kind of something to put on while I'm doing other things, and I think it's decent though. Um, what else have I been watching? Well, I've mainly been watching the Superfan episodes of The Office. I think I may have touched on that last time. And I finally watched all the ones that are available. It goes up to season 8. So the Superfan version of season 9 still needs to come out. Maybe that'll be way later in the year or something. But I did rewatch the final season just for good measure, because I didn't want to stop just at season 8, which is pretty bad season in places. Yeah, I just really hate Robert California, but I kind of like the Tallahassee arc in that season. And Star Wars Celebration's been happening. There have been a bunch of announcements. I mean, I could be here a long time talking about the announced stuff, but generally, what's come out so far sounds really good. Animation seems like it'll be going a good route. There's a Darth Maul series coming out of that, and makes me wonder if maybe they'll finally tie up the thread left dangling at the end of Solo. We saw what happened with Kira way later, but I'd like to see how the Maul and Kira training or whatever went. Ryan Gosling is going to be in a movie called Star Wars Starfighter, and it could be good. It's post episode 9. Mandalorian and Grogu is also supposed to come out next May, and Starfighter will come out the May after that. But at this point, I'm very cautious in my expectations, because there have been some things that were developed and then just swept under the rug. I mean, remember Rogue Squadron? I guess they couldn't do a squadron, so it's just a starfighter now. I don't know. But yeah, I'll believe it all when I see it, I guess. It's really nice to see how nice everyone seems to be to Hayden Christensen and Ahmed Best at Star Wars Celebration Japan. Been watching the live streams, and yeah, Ahsoka season 2 could be interesting, but I know that season 1 really had a rough first few episodes, in my opinion, but and even some stuff they haven't really explained, so I don't know, but I am very curious to see how it plays out. And Doctor Who, the first 2 episodes of the new season have come out, and I've been talking about the show on my YouTube channel, Steven Shinder Reviews, in video form, but overall the season premiere, pretty solid. The second episode was kind of weirder, but you can hear all about that on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I guess that's it from me for now. I guess we'll see what else I watch, and again, this show will be back in 2 weeks, so see you all soon, and without further delay, have a good day.